All right, everybody. Today I'm here with Mr. Robert Martin. Robert was a member of the Handala Flotilla. He is from Melbourne, Australia. He's a very courageous man, very brave man who's done a lot of good. But I'll let him tell a little bit of that. So, Robert, if you want to, just go ahead and give us a quick rundown of who you are.
My name is Robert Martin. My family upbringing was interesting. I was a late adoption. I had a very colourful upbringing. So that's a story for another day. My best friend, business partner, and best man at my wedding is Palestinian. For 15, 20 years, he told me about what was going on in Palestine. I would go home and I would see the news, and the news would tell me something completely different than what he was telling me. He was telling me, Rob, they're killing my family, they're stealing our land. My dad was kicked out of the country. He's never allowed back. If we go back, we're going to get harassed, potentially killed. I thought he was like a fanatical sports fan that was just all about his team, and that the other team was a terrible team. And the news would say that the Israeli Jews were always defending themselves. They wanted to live in peace, that the Palestinians were basically racist towards the Jews, hated the Jews, wanted to drive the Jews into the sea. You never hear about where they came from, being 80% of the Palestinians are from what we call Israel today. And so I had an awakening, and it took me a long time. And but for my best friend, who is our number one spokesperson for Palestine in Australia, is now in the United Kingdom speaking for Palestine. For him not to be able to convince me says a lot to do with the power of the media and my ignorance, and
Absolutely.
willfully, possibly. So,
Absolutely. So that was going to be one of my next questions was how long you've kind of been aware of the issue in Palestine. If it is for me to say it, I just discovered the issue at its core about 6 months ago, and
right.
I haven't been able to keep my mind off of it since. I couldn't
Right.
believe how blind I was to it. So how long
Right.
have you kind of been involved with Palestine and supporting Palestine?
So I started to realize, I think it was in 2014, things started to look like they weren't right. You've got an Israeli army that has jets, has F-35s, F-25s, it has a navy, it has tanks, it has everything you need, and the backing of the United States, as I'm sure you're well aware,
Right.
massacring and killing a people that do not have those weapons. They don't have tanks, they don't have helicopters, they don't have planes, they don't even have an airport. They have homemade weapons that they use as a way to say, we're not going to give up. You're not going to steal our country. You're not going to be able to kill all of us. It's not going to happen. And once I started to see that, I started to post. And when I posted online, most people seemed to believe everything I said, even though my Palestinian friend had been saying exactly the same thing for 15 years. But it shows how we are innately racist.
Absolutely.
People believed me because I'm white. And it's such a stupid thing. Why would they believe me? I don't know. I don't know. I'm not that person. I haven't lived the life that my Palestinian friends have lived. But that's the way it is. And then people started to say, have you ever been? I said, no. Have you? And none of them had been either. And so I went over there, in 2014 to have a look for myself. I didn't wasn't a part of a tour. I just went on my own, wandered around to see the truth, and I was blown away.
So were you in
Blown away.
Gaza or the West Bank or where?
Couldn't get into Gaza, so it
Uh,
was the occupied West Bank.
got you.
So the first time I went was 2014, and I thought I knew all of it. And then I went back in 2018, and I was blown away again. I thought, my God, how does this happen? Now, when I look back on October 7th, it's a miracle that October 7th didn't happen earlier on. These people of Gaza, these Palestinians of Gaza, and these people in the occupied West Bank, I would have seen 50 war crimes while I was there, and I wasn't
Wow.
even looking.
Wow.
Wasn't even looking. And these people, the Palestinians, it's their only way. What are they going to do? Just give up and leave?
So
People in Gaza can't even leave.
So you were obvious. I mean, you being there, they could obviously tell that you weren't from there, probably, and they didn't care to even hide it from you. They just did it in front of you, as far as the war crimes. Like just you were in front of they
100%,
they just
yeah.
they didn't care. That's yeah. So
But
they don't even
they
try to
don't
hide it.
care. The first few times they saw me there, they were surprised that a white guy was actually there.
Yeah.
And then they were surprised that this actual white guy was filming with his camera, and that this white guy stood up to them,
Right.
because most people wanted to hide their photography if they ever do it, and then take it out of the country. Whereas as I said, I didn't go there to do it. It just happened. It just happened organically. I was lucky I had a phone, but the fact that everywhere I went, I met people who's had lost family members, had been murdered, lost houses, all of these different things to the Israeli war machine. It's incredible. It's insane.
So when you got there, I mean, was it worse than what you expected? Was it better than you expected? What was it like when you first got over there for your first time back in 2014?
The people were amazing,
They're smart. They're very smart.
courageous, yeah, courageous, welcoming, beautiful people that just want you to meet and spend time with them, and then tell the world about them. I was told that they're going to be vicious. They're not going to like me because I'm white. They're racist, and I won't come back alive. That was a very, very different change. They were all, to have be so hospitable in that environment is quite incredible. I have an uncle who is very high up for Christians for Israel, and I had organised to meet, or he had organised for me to meet one of his people, and I met him after my third day in Palestine. I met him in Jerusalem, and he said, "Where have you been staying?" And I said, "I've been staying in Belin, which is a Palestinian village where Five Broken Cameras was filmed." And the look on his face was, why are you there? It's too dangerous, Robert. You've got to get out. You must get out. You cannot stay there. They are vicious savages. And I said, wow. I said, have you been there? He said, no, I won't go. And this guy's in charge of taking the tours, mind you.
Right. Yeah.
And then I said, you know what? It was very dangerous. He says, yes, I know. I said, I did feel my life threatened. He says, of course, that's what they're like. I said, by the IDF soldiers is what and I had footage. I had footage of them threatening to shoot me. And that's my first ever video where I get out of the car, and there's a soldier not expecting me to be in the car, and he had his gun aimed at the Palestinian driving. And as I got out of the car, his gun moved from pointing to hiding his face. And I've got that on footage. You can
Wow.
clearly see him trying to hide his face, because all of a sudden there's a white guy there
Right.
with a camera. And but for this guy who does all the tours for Christians for Israel, not once do they set foot in the occupied West Bank. I said, I will spend a week with you. You can do what you like to me. You've got to come into mine for 2 or 3 days. No,
They won't do it.
wouldn't do it. Wouldn't do it. And that is a very, very sad fact that they, because you see the buses throughout the West Bank, big brands, banking new buses, very clean, and you can just about see the faces looking through the windows. But they stop near the signs, and there's signs that says, look, it's illegal for Israelis to go into these areas because it's in danger to their life. And these buses stop by these signs. So you can imagine what they're saying in there. In here's where the Palestinians are. And you can see
Right.
the sign there. It's against Israeli law. You cannot go in there. Israelis are not allowed there. But Israelis go in there every single day with their uniforms on. Every single day. To demonize it, So that was an interesting experience for the Christians for Israel tour.
So I seen some of your videos where you were confronting IDF soldiers. So what was that? Was that just like checkpoints? Was that just you seeing them walking down the streets? What were those encounters? Were you just seeing them, or was it a checkpoint situation? What was that?
Both.
Both.
It was both. So the first one's in Berlin that was trying to hide his face. It's a completely Palestinian area. So, and there's a photo where you can see me and a soldier, and then behind you can see children's play equipment, which is the Palestinian playground. And then behind that, you can see the apartheid wall. And then behind that, you can see the settlements. And so these soldiers only had one reason to be here, and that was to provoke the Palestinians by taking the playground equipment. And that's what they did.
Wow.
That was
Wow.
the only reason they were there for. And they threw stun grenades at me. And so they shouldn't have been there. There's no purpose for them to be there at all. None. They left after me being there, but someone sent me a photo. It was about 3 hours later. They came back and they had taken what they needed to take.
Wow.
And so in
Cowards.
Hebron, Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and these kids don't have an area to play. There's no play area. The other ones were in Hebron, which were they're quite brazen, those soldiers, because they are heavily guarding the apartheid. You can see where the Palestinians cannot walk. There's no line or anything, but there's soldiers there saying that. And I didn't believe this was going to happen. I thought I was, they were messing with me. And as we walked up, there's a soldier says, Isa, you can't come. And so he knows his name, knows who he is,
Wow.
wants to check his ID every time anyway, and he's not allowed to walk down that street anyway. And so there's quite a few soldiers, and there's quite a few tourists as well from America. The Jewish ones doing their tours.
Yeah.
There's
I know
which was quite.
Mike Huckabee's been doing them tours since I believe it was the 80s, and he's the ambassador to Israel for the United States, and he does those tours. And they're telling what he. I tried to do a little research the other day, try to find out what he's made off of that. Of course, you can't find it, but I'd be interested to know.
Tons,
So
tons.
when you're over there and you're around the IDF soldiers, did you ever get the sense that they ever try to make you think they were better people than they were? Did they show you extra hospitality to make you have a different opinion, or were they just straight up assholes up from the get go? You being a
On
white
my
guy not from there.
Yeah, my face to face never tried to tell me that they were nice guys. Never. I had the Israeli Hasbara occasionally text me through Facebook in these different ways to say, look, we want to show you this. They'd start the nice approach.
Yeah.
Say, obviously, you've been misled. We want to help you. And then they would send pictures of their barracks. So they were over there, not far away. And then I would politely say, I'm not interested. And then they would turn the heat up and start to threaten and do other things. So never over there. The one place that I did feel that where they were trying a little bit to be nice was on the flotilla, which we'll get to, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But over there, they don't care if you think they're nice. They want you to know that they run the place, that it's their place, like a criminal holds on to something, to say, and they have to keep telling you it's theirs. When it's yours, you don't have to do that. But when it's not yours and you're stealing it, you have to, and you can see that there was no real nice people there.
So yeah, you mentioned the flotilla, so I kind of want to get to that. So you was on it's I can't pronounce it very well. What's the name of the flotilla you were on?
The Handala.
The Handala. Okay. And how did you get involved with that? If you'll walk us through that, how did you first find out about the flotilla? Where'd y'all take off
Yep.
from? Everything like that.
Well, the Handala's been going on since about 2007. It was created for the purpose that Israelis put an illegal siege on the Gaza Strip. They supposedly left the Gaza Strip, and then they put a siege on there, and it's been there ever since. And the siege is slowly choking, and not so slowly anymore, but choking Gaza. And over the years, they've stopped baby formula, they've stopped
Yeah.
um, crayons, pencils, medical equipment, crutches, because they can be dangerous. They've also, chocolates was a big one for a while because they didn't want the kids to be happy, and they
So
did
when you
also
say
work out the.
so when you say stopping something, you're meaning like they're picking and choosing what can and can't come, not just stopping everything. They'll let certain things, but they'll stop the kids' toy. Wow.
So that's yeah, that's when I normal life before October 7.
Right.
Now
Yeah.
they also calculated the calories, and this is it's a documented fact. They calculated the calories to figure out how many calories a particular person needs to survive, because they don't want them to thrive. They just want them to
Yes.
survive. That's all they wanted, and to weaken everything. And they used to go in. They call it mowing the lawns, but they used to go in and bomb all the major hospitals and power plants and water plants because they want the place not to thrive. Now, the UN also said a number of years ago that Gaza would be uninhabitable in 2023, and that was before the war came out,
Yeah.
or so-called war. I don't like to call it a war because it's not. So the flotilla started a very, very long time ago. The first few boats got through, which was fantastic.
Yeah.
The boat that I was on was the 37th mission. Now a lot of people only know about it because of Greta. Greta was on the one before mine,
Okay.
and because which is fantastic. The world knew who she was, and they started to have a look. and that was a game changer.
Mhm.
And then I went on mine. I was invited a number of years ago, and things just didn't work out. Last year, I went over to Malta, and I was on the boat ready to go, and the political pressures came in from Turkish government, Israeli government, all of the big powers. You know, they start to reach out to these countries and start to put the screws in to say, don't let them sail.
Wow.
Italy has come out today and said that the flotilla should stop. You know, not in as many
Really,
words.
I had not seen that. So
So
Italy.
these are the games that they played. So you know, we don't know what's going to happen. So I was supposed to be on it. I was supposed to be on the Conscience, and some people might know that the Conscience was bombed just
Wow.
outside Maltese waters. It was bombed. This is 6 months ago, bombed by Israel.
Wow.
And you know they have to fly an aeroplane in and land in a different country, and then they have to get the drones out, fly them in water in airspace that's not their own, and bomb this particular ship to make it useless. And it's incredible. This happened only a few months ago, and then the other boat went, which was the Madeleine, and that was very successful. That was the one with Greta. Our boat went. We had sabotage the day we left. The day we left, they do a check, and we found that there was a rope around our propeller. And this
Wow.
happens. This happens. But it doesn't happen with a rope that floats. It doesn't tend to happen with a brand new rope. And it
Right.
doesn't tend to happen with a rope that's not designed for an old boat, but a brand new yacht. So that was,
Wow.
uh, people can say what they want. And then we're having water delivered because that happens the day that you leave. And there was this guy trying to get on there really quickly, and some of the water spilt out, and it went onto one of my comrade's leg and burnt her leg because it was sulfuric acid. Now the Turkish government investigating, but those two things happened the day we left
Wow.
because they wanted to stop us from sailing. And the reason I'm saying this is that I believe that the flotilla is a game changer. It exposes Israel for the pettiness. Our boat didn't have a lot of aid, but what it did have, it had a lot of hope, and it also showed the world what was going on because the best way to get into Gaza is via sea. And we need to open up the Mediterranean, that corridor, because huge container ships can get over there.
Right.
They can deliver and they can also take the sick to hospitals around the world. It's a game changer. But Israel and the States, they want to show you that Gaza is impossible to get into. Hence the reason they drop things in, because it gives you that visual to
Mm.
say, look, it's impossible to get in there, whereas the sea is open.
Mm.
So I was very proud to be a part of that. It was horrible, but I think it makes a difference.
I do too. So obviously, the aid on the flotillas definitely makes a difference as far as the aid itself goes. But would you agree? Do you think that flotillas are more so about the message they send, or
100%.
yeah, that's what it's more about, right? The
Of course,
message.
of course. Of course, I mean, ours mainly had teddy bears on it. Had
Right.
teddy bears on it, to give the kids some hope.
Gotcha.
And our small boat with 21 people is not going to change the world.
Right.
Absolutely not. And
Gotcha.
so if people want to call it a selfie boat, I say, okay, it's a selfie boat. But at least you're looking at the boat. And then people say, well, why are you going there? And then they do more investigation. And then that's sort of,
I mean, the
how it
flotillas
happens.
is one of the things that got me to even looking into the entire conflict. So it is absolutely
Wow, I
very
didn't know that.
beneficial.
That's
Yeah,
cool.
that's exactly why I got to
That's
looking
really
into it.
cool. Yeah.
So that they definitely are
Nice.
powerful and important.
Nice.
So,
Yeah.
yeah, I was kind of surprised by the Samud flotilla that's floating now. There's a U.S. Army veteran, or they're not all Army, but all U.S. veteran boat out there, and I believe the veteran boat was actually targeted, in one of those attacks that they did here recently. And I reached out here in America. I reached out to every one of my senators, congressmen,
Good
sent
for you.
multiple emails, called, never even got a response. And we're talking about a boat full of American citizens who are obviously being targeted. And I don't know if you've seen the video. Captain Josephine, she had called the State Department about the situation to let them know, hey, I've got
Mm.
friends out there that are being attacked right now. The U.S. State Department told her that she was calling the wrong people. She needed to call the embassy in Israel. So I heard that video. Well, I called the embassy. They told me, man, we do passports and stuff, and hung up on me. Like it's, and we had American veterans out there under attack, and the fact that they tried to connect them to Hamas is insane.
That's the new one
Did
now, so they
did y'all
can.
ever have any accusations like that on your?
Well, when they sent us off to jail, and they would always accuse that, well, why are you helping Hamas? Why don't you help other kids? Why don't you go to the Congo? Why don't you do this, do this? It's, you always support Hamas. That's one of the greatest things that they say. I still believe, because they stole a lot of our stuff. I believe that a picture will come out one day. It'll have a part of my medication and my name in it, and they'll plant something in there saying, "Look, he was a part of Hamas," because they did it to a lot of our stuff. And so I believe it's there waiting for some sort of bullshit thing to come up. But I'm pretty sure, 90% sure, that when I got to the prison, our embassy was there and they spoke to us. But I don't think the American embassy turned up,
Yeah, from
your
what
your consulate.
I
And we had
researched
five
it.
or six,
Yeah, I researched it when I was actually on a live watching you speak about it, and I researched it, and no, ours did not show up at that time.
which is to me so that
Yeah,
that's
that
that's
that
horrible.
that blew my mind. That's scary as an American. I mean, I'm an American veteran. I served in the army as well, and to think that if I was in a foreign land in real danger, and citizens back here at home were calling my State Department and my senators, and they were just hanging up on them. I mean, that's scary. I mean, what kind of country is that? We're supposed to be the best country in the world. I don't know when it comes
It
to Israel.
shows. Yes, it shows who runs it when Israel comes into it. My embassy was fantastic. That they were so good. I cannot give them enough credit. They watched because there was a live boarding camera. So when they boarded our ship, they watched it live, and they knew the time that we would get the to Ashdod, the docking land, and they were there. And then saw them while I was in prison. They were fantastic, but I couldn't believe that the American ones didn't come.
Yeah.
It's just, what sort of a sign, what sort of a signal does that show? Um,
So let's talk about when. So you got captured on the flotilla. So how long were you guys sailing before you got captured? Where were you at when you
10
got
days,
10 days? Where were you at
10
when you
days.
got captured, roughly?
It was about 100 nautical miles out of Palestinian waters. We
And
knew
that's
that
where
they were
they
coming.
say that's where they say they capture, isn't it? I was reading something like that about the Samud. They called it, I think, some nautical miles, and they were like, we call it this because this is where they capture
Yeah, yeah,
flotillas. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So we got further than most in a very, very long time. We sort of timed it like during the night and the day, because they'll only come at night. They won't come during the day. They don't do that. And so we knew they were coming. And then at about 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock, I think it was, the night before, there was a huge drone directly above us, just hovering, like the aeroplane ones. They're,
Yeah.
taking their pictures and doing all of the things that they did. And then 10 o'clock, I didn't see the flares. A few of the others saw some flares go up. And then all of a sudden, everything was hazy, because normally it's clear. You can see for miles, but it
Wow.
was hazy. So they had done their flares. And this is what I was saying before. They tried to be nice. There was a guy on the microphone on one of the boats. He said, "Look, we understand that you've had a very tough trip. You've been out to sea for 8 days now. Your journey is now over. We're going to take you safely to shore, but we're going to come on board and we'll feed you and give you some water." Really trying to be nice, because they knew we had cameras on our boat. They got on with their own camera crew, so you could see that they were trying, and then you could see them ripping off our cameras.
Yeah, I've seen those videos from in the corner up in the ceiling. They snatched it down as soon as they recognized it. They snatched it
And I
down.
don't know why. I mean, but I laughed at them. I mean, I'm a little bit of a prick to them, so I laughed at them, saying, if you're telling us how good you're going to be, why wouldn't you just show the world how good you are? But what
Right.
they wanted is they want to muck with your head as well. So most people would feel the safety of their own cameras there, and so them doing that, it does something to your head as well. You think, oh Jesus,
Right.
and so they're very good at those games. But I also told them that you haven't found them all yet. There's quite a few on here. So they keep looking and looking and looking. So
That's
so
hilarious.
but
Good for
Yeah,
you.
I said,
Good for
you
you.
don't think we're going to have them all just there ready for you to see, do you? And you can see you can see in his eyes, sort of going, what? So
So
it's
what was the process like from them getting on the boat with you guys and then getting you guys to the jail? How did that go?
so look, so they all said they were reasonably good, those ones. I mean, there's a few things that happened we don't need to mention, but these guys, they're Unit 13. They must sign on for 5 years. All the other units 2 years or three.
Okay.
So these are the ones they're built for speed. They're thinner, they're agile, and they're the ones that did it. You may know, or you may not, the Al Shifa Hospital massacre. They
Yeah.
went in there and that's these guys.
Wow.
Also, there was a flotilla in 2010, the Mavi Marmara, where 10 people were executed by the Israelis. This was this crew. And so they're built differently. And so they commandeered the ship. And technically, it's actually human trafficking and kidnapping. That's what the technical term legal is, because they had no jurisdiction, because we're in international waters.
Right.
So they have no legal at all. And so it's an 11-hour trip. I believe everybody was gassed because everyone fell asleep pretty quickly, except for me. I'm on a particular medication that can change the sedation of certain things. It's just a tablet that I take a number of different medications for
Right.
different, arthritis and stuff. Because I was wide awake and everyone else was asleep. And logically, you've got 30 armed or 20 armed Israeli narcissists there over you with minimum of 3 guns on them. One had 4, minimum of
Wow.
3. I don't see how you could just go to sleep.
Yeah, I could.
It doesn't logically.
I couldn't have slept in that moment. I don't think so.
Logically, it just doesn't make sense to
So
me.
when y'all are going to the jail, y'all are on one of their vessels. Y'all are
No,
y'all
no, they
still on
take ours.
yours? Okay.
They take our
Oh
vessel,
yeah,
and
they
they're going
probably.
through the vessel everywhere. Every nook and cranny. So I still think they've planted stuff, and that'll come out
Are
at a different stage.
are y'all
Uh,
detained on the way to jail? Like
and so
in.
they No, we weren't. We weren't at that stage. We weren't handcuffed or anything. So it's an 11-hour trip. Then they took us to Ashdod, and you can see the difference. The difference is incredible. The people for immigration and the prison system are built like this. They were massive, and they looked angry. Their whole persona was intimidation, and there was also a whole lot of camera crews there as well. But that was quite intimidating to see those. They got us off the boat one by one, and so you get your pictures taken, and then if you did anything wrong, 6 to 8 soldiers would pick you up and take you into a room, and that's what they did with Chris Smalls, who's the American, the African American guy who got beaten up quite badly. And then in prison for 3 or 4 days, we didn't eat, we didn't drink. They strip searched us numerous times. They used to come in with their full battle gear on to do it. They would shine torches in our eyes every hour to make sure that you're not allowed to sleep. They had bed bugs, cockroaches. The water was horrific to shower in. It was acidic, like acidic really badly. And then, and I don't know how they do this, but one day the water was really hot, and then both taps, and then another day it was really cold, both taps. So I don't know if they've got a button out the back. They just push it, To,
Wow.
um, there was air conditioning down the hallways, not in the rooms where we were. I was in a room with one other, and then all the other guys, being 7 of them, were in another room. I think they were doing it to psychologically get me, because they said that I wouldn't have any protection in jail. I'm not so tough in jail, all of these sorts of
Yeah.
things. Every time we left our room to go to court or anything, they would handcuff arms and feet, which is, interesting. Going from the going from the area of the ship to the prison was an hour's drive, and we could see just through the hole at the front. We had 4 police cars as escorts,
Wow.
really doing the whole thing. One in front of the next, and getting in the front of the next. They're treating us like absolute
For a bunch of human
criminals.
activists, basically.
Yeah, I mean it's insane, and I think they do it also though to show their people, look how dangerous they are. I mean,
Right.
I wouldn't have
Yeah.
been surprised if they'd have a camera crew there and then put that in their newspapers.
Yeah.
Because there was one lady in there, Victus, and she was a lovely lady. She was the cook. She had chewing tobacco, and this, but she had one up here, and she got, oh my God, I can't believe I've left it here. She went to tell the doctors. They put her in solitary confinement, and a newspaper article said that she had smuggled a heap of hashish on the boat from her thing. So there's an article out
Wow.
there. So uh, it's
Well,
it's it's crazy, and I never believed that the Hasbara, which is their propaganda, was as strong as it is. And I just never believed that it would be like that. And then when you see it, and then I read an article today how they're saying yes, the flotilla's definitely, the Samud's definitely aligned with Hamas. I mean, it's just crazy. So I mean, because I
yeah.
know a lot of the organizers, and they're all. It's just such a stupid thing. But
Yeah, I mean, I believe they said that the IDF actually found a document or something that correlated the flotilla with Hamas or something like that. Is
of
what I
course,
read, but I'm like, come on, man, it's
yeah, they've just left that document out.
yeah. So you've done obviously a lot, by going on the flotilla, confronting those IDF soldiers. That's extremely brave. I don't know how you do it, man. Them guys standing there with rifles and you're standing there with a phone, but I commend you for it and I salute you for it. But what's your like message to the world? What can people do besides just post it on social media to try to get the word out? Is there anything we can do?
Yeah, absolutely. I still think that protests have a part, because I think protests help build the movement. It's build the movement to a point, where people are doing action. We need to do action things more now.
Yeah,
And what you've done is brilliant. Ringing up, putting pressure on your local, politicians and the different areas that they might hang up on you.
right,
They might hang up on the next 15 people, but they might start speaking to the 16th
right,
because they're thinking, oh, Jesus, they're going to keep calling. I know that my embassy in Australia, um, when they looked after us so brilliantly well through Jordan, to get out of everywhere, was because of a lot of the phone calls. And I put that down to a lot of people putting the pressure on. And I think that's very important. Boycotting as well does make a
right.
difference. I think for a long time, people didn't think boycott did because it was so slow. But today it's quick. Things are just falling off Israel.
Yeah,
It'll be the soccer next, and that's a massive one. They will hate that,
yeah, for
and
sure.
it all makes a difference. I think, and this is the one thing that I've never understood, and you may be able to tell me this, that as a taxpayer in America, a portion of your tax is going to Israel. Now, why? What, you have debts like no one's business. I mean, you have issues in your country that your money should be going to that. So I don't understand. Even these people, if they hate the Palestinians, even if they hate the Palestinians, wouldn't they prefer their money to go back into their own country?
Yeah.
I simply don't understand that.